She's our flowering room.
When you look at it this way, you might not be surprised that John Davis's marijuana business is all cash. But when you look at it like this, it's probably surprising you can't charge your purchase.
You can see I can't run credit cards anymore.
It's a common problem for medical marijuana businesses around the country. As Washington State opens its doors to legal recreational cannabis, the industry faces a roadblock.
If you are taking in cash from a sale of a Schedule I drug, that is drug trafficking. Policy hasn't changed.
While some businesses accept credit and debit cards through new technologies, it's still mostly a cash business. How do they function without being able to accept cards? They're installing ATMs.
It all started with a phone call, and a collective said, you know what, we just lost our credit card service. We need a way to provide cash for our patients. Is there something you can do to help us?
Haithcock says his company installs about 8 ATMs a month in marijuana businesses.
We're at about 45 collectives.
But the problems go well beyond credit cards.
You don't get help with banks. You don't get help with investors. In fact, oftentimes you get resistance.
We're insured at the federal level and we're regulated at the federal level. So what that means is we have to follow the federal law. Well, it's still illegal at the federal level, which limits our ability to really serve that industry at this point in time. Our hands are really tied.
Banking is super tough.
Shai Sadis runs another medical marijuana business, and he has a bank account.
But yeah, we really would love to see a legitimate bank step up and allow us to bank and allow us to use credit cards. Whoever does that first is going to kill it.
It goes straight into the drop safe. Put it in, boom, done.
Davis is lucky enough to have an account.
Secure till the next day.
There are reports that one credit union in Washington is starting to work with pot businesses, but it has not returned CNN's calls for comment.
The banking issue definitely is a challenge that we've identified early on. We've reached out to the Department of Financial Institutions to try to get some help and clarity for us on this issue. There's talk of whether or not setting up a state banking system could address those concerns.
With bank loans virtually impossible to get, startups are relying on their own savings or friends. But what about investors?
They're all like talking tough. I'm going to enter the cannabis trade. I'm dangerous. And then it's like, okay, we'll put some money down. And they're like, oh, wait a second, that's crazy talk.
Currently, we stay away from companies that grow cannabis. We stay away from companies that process it. It's because it's illegal at the federal level.
And there's a larger question. How will the state collect its taxes on marijuana, one of the goals of legalization in Washington's I-502, if the industry continues to bank in the dark?
If I lost my checking, I assume what I would do is get a big bag and put some money in it and put cannabis in it and shake it up so that the money smelled really good and go down to the Department of Revenue and say, here's your taxes. Is this really what you wanted?
And paying what is owed is also difficult for the industry. A relatively unknown federal provision, Section 280E, doesn't allow marijuana businesses to deduct many expenses.
Salaries, insurance, rent, things like that. Unless we can change the tax code, that tax code is still going to apply to legalized 502 stores, as we call them here in Washington, and that ends up ultimately taking the business down.
And a lot of my competitors are like, hey, 280E, I give up. Banking issue, I give up. I'm going to be all cash. By not taking on this issue, you are creating organized crime. You are creating your own black market in which you fear.
And the success of marijuana legalization is on the line. Jordan Malter, CNN Money, Seattle, Washington.